I, Lucas Bersamin,
mayroon po tayong bagong Executive Secretary, former Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin. Nag-umpisa na po siya kanina. Matapos niya mag-oath taking, umattend po siya ng ika-siyam na cabinet meeting ng administrasyon na ito. Nag-participate na po siya kanina at today he puts in a full day's work immediately after taking his oath. Primarily, it's a trust basis. Sinasabi ng ating Pangulo, he is well qualified to be the Executive Secretary, having put in so many years in the judiciary. He has the necessary legal background and the ability to deal with paperwork. Plus, of course, he is trusted and well qualified for this.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Sean Yao. The big story tonight.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has chosen former Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin as the new Executive Secretary.
The palace says the decision to name Bersamin as Executive Secretary was based on trust. Maricel Halili with the big story.
Your name.
I, Lucas Bersamin,
Having been appointed
to
the position of
the position of Executive Secretary.
Former Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin has taken his oath of office as the new Executive Secretary before President Bongbong Marcos. As Executive Secretary, Bersamin is considered the highest-ranking official of the Office of the President, being referred to as the Little President. According to Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles, Bersamin was chosen as the new Executive Secretary based on trust.
Sinasabi ng ating Pangulo, he is well qualified to be the Executive Secretary, having put in so many years in the judiciary. He has the necessary legal background and the ability to deal with paperwork. Plus, of course, he is trusted and well qualified for this.
Bersamin replaces Attorney Vic Rodriguez, who is currently serving as Presidential Chief of Staff, a new position created by Administrative Order No. 1. But what will be the difference between Bersamin's role and Rodriguez?
Well, in the absence, wala pa pong publication kasi ang ating AO1, so we'll have to wait for that bago po natin maggawa ng distinction, if any.
Shortly after his oath-taking as Executive Secretary, Bersamin went straight to work and joined his first cabinet meeting. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
Prior to becoming Executive Secretary, former Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin was already making headlines as he was involved in some of the Supreme Court's most notable cases. Here's what we know. Bersamin is the second Chief Justice to become Executive Secretary, but he is the first to hold the position after his stint in the judiciary. In 2009, he was appointed by then-President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. In 2018, former President Rodrigo Duterte appointed him as the 25th Chief Justice of the Republic of the Philippines. In his stint as the top magistrate, Bersamin was involved in rulings on high-profile and controversial cases. Bersamin voted in favor of the burial of former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. at the libingan ng mga bayani. He also voted for the continued detention of opposition Senator Leila de Lima. Bersamin was also part of the unanimous vote that declared the Priority Development Assistance Funds, or the PDAF, or the pork barrel, as unconstitutional. Bersamin authored the decision granting the demurrer to evidence of former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, leading to her release from detention. He also authored the decision that allowed former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile to post bail despite facing a non-bailable offense of plunder. For political analyst Ramon Casiple, it's possible that Bersamin's role in the decision in these cases were considered in his appointment.
Politically, malinaw yung loyalty na lumilitaw, ano? Pero kung ang usapin ay kakayahan sa trabaho ng Executive Secretary, iba pang usapin yun kasi may burokrasya na usapin dyan eh.
To give us more insights on the appointment of former Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin as Executive Secretary, we have with us Philippine Star Associate Editor Marichu Villanueva. Good evening. Welcome to the Big Story, Chu.
Good evening, Robbie and Sean.
Well, Ichu, narinig naman natin, based daw on trust. We already mentioned the votes for the burial of Marcos Sr. But other than that, ano bang history ni President Marcos kay Chief Justice Bersamin? What is that trust standing on and rooted in?
I think it's more of their being from the solid north because he also hails from the northern Luzon province. And I'm just not sure if he's from Ilocos or somewhere there. And he has also been somewhat, Chief Justice Bersamin has some past activities that coincided with the Marcoses attending it. So more or less, they had some friendship and some sort of, as they say, trust and confidence he has gained from the Marcoses because he has kept, as Chief Justice, a steady course on his judicial decisions without having to consider the Marcoses as a family.
All right, and being part of the office of the president is completely different, Ichu, from being part of the judiciary. What can we expect then from Lucas Bersamin? Can we expect anything controversial to come out of his new post as ES?
You know, Chief Justice Bersamin carries with him a lot of legal background that would help him a lot to stay out of controversial legal and constitutional issues that his predecessor have somewhat overstepped his bounds as an executive secretary. On that score, the Chief Justice can more than protect the presidency from such lapses, especially on legal and constitutional issues. And if we base from his the former executive secretary Salvador Medaldea during the presidency of Duterte, Medaldea has kept very tight lead of the executive secretary, especially on the issuances of executive orders, administrative orders, and other executive fiats coming out of Malacanang. And he has shown, as a lawyer, Medaldea and Bersamin have that same kind of track record as on legal matters that would help a lot the presidency.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Ichu, alam mo naman, this whole talk about who's going to be the new executive secretary all had to do as well with the old executive secretary. How do you anticipate the workings in Malacanang now that you have a new executive secretary and a new chief of staff position for Attorney Vic Rodriguez, especially given, as the spokesperson, Attorney Angeles herself pointed out, we haven't seen AO1, which defines the role of the new chief of staff.
Yes, I think, Robbie, the first thing that Executive Secretary Bersamin would look into is that AO1 that Rodriguez himself crafted and in which Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile redacted so much, and in fact, Enrile recommended not to create that post, but the president, being obviously indebted to Rodriguez, who has worked for so long with him, has to accommodate the former executive secretary with the new post as Chief Presidential Chief of Staff. So I think that's the first order of the day for Chief Justice Bersamin to look over this AO number 1, Robbie.
All right, I think we pretty much got what Ichu was trying to say, so we'll watch out for AO number 1 in the coming days. Thank you so much, Philippine Star Associate Editor Marichu Villanueva. After the break, we'll be talking about the Philippine peso hitting yet another all-time low against the US dollar. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Decided, actually, given the choice between defending foreign exchange and trying to remedy the situation of rising interest rates, rising inflation. This is something that we have tried to control, of course, with the usual mechanisms of moving the interest rate.
Tell us a little bit about how the forex markets are doing right now. In your view, what is the appropriate level for the Philippine peso?
That's very hard to say for the simple reason that we really have not had this situation before. So it's not, there is no formula that will says the range should be here to there. It really is a reflection, in my view, is a reflection more on the strength of the dollar. And we must remember that the dollar always does well in times of uncertainty. It's a safe haven.
The big story here on One News. The Philippine peso hit another all-time low against the U.S. dollar after closing at 58.99 today. This is the local currency's worst performance against the greenback for the fifth straight trading day. The peso opened the day at 58.8, a drop from its 58.35 start last Friday. In an earlier briefing, Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles said the palace is closely monitoring the peso-dollar exchange rate on a regular basis.
The International Monetary Board trimmed its growth forecast for the Philippines to 6.5% for 2022. That's lower than its initial 6.7% growth estimate. It is also at the lower end of government's 6.5 to 7.5% goal for this year. The IMF said the Philippines faces gloomier and more uncertain global environment despite having a fundamentally sound economy due to reforms and policies. Meanwhile, the IMF kept its growth forecast for the country for 2023 at 5%. Here to talk to us more about the impact of the weakening peso on the economy, we have with us One News business editor Regina Lay joining us via Zoom.
Hi, Reg.
Hi, Reg.
Hi, guys. Good evening.
So?
What are we seeing for the peso? 60, we're practically there. 65, I mean, how much weaker can it get? Or how much stronger can it get?
It's like we started last week with what, 56, 57 or something, and now we're already touching 59 almost. So question is 60, 65? The short, painful answer is yes. Potentially we could be seeing 60. As you heard in the snippet earlier from President Marcos, this is a problem of a strong dollar, not the weak peso, meaning the reason we're depreciating so fast is because the USD just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And the reason for that is because their central bank, the Federal Reserve, just keeps hiking interest rates, right? Because why? They also have record high inflation. It's about, I think, 8.3% now. And the Fed is determined to bring it down to 2.2%. So you can only imagine how many more rate hikes that's going to entail, right? So again, given the trajectory that we're seeing, some of the analysts that we've spoken to say we could hit 60 levels within days, possibly as soon as tomorrow. Today, we closed at 58.99, as Sean just said. And 65, well, potentially by the end of the year, if the Fed keeps going at the rate it's going, although closer to Christmas, we are expecting a little bit of a relief because of the remittances from OFWs, but certainly it's heading there.
Right. Reg, right now, okay, as we all know, and as you would probably tell me, the central bank has a bunch of tools at its disposal. However, Governor Medalla has already said we're not going to employ so much of these tools right now because there's just no way they can keep up with the tightening of the Fed. They can't keep in lockstep with it because of the inflation that we are feeling here domestically as well. So what now what moves are available to the BSP at the moment? Do you think Governor Medalla will just let the peso find its true level? I mean, in Japan, they already interfered with the forex market.
Yes, that's right. That was big news, though, when Japan intervened in the forex markets. I don't think we're there yet. I think it'll be more the former, as you said, which is that he is happy to let the peso find its floor. That's going to be painful, of course, because when you, yes, there's many tools that the Banco Central has, but the only real tool that they have is just like the Fed, is to hike interest rates, right? Now, the problem is that they can't go as fast as the Fed because remember, our economy only just reopened this year, right? So this is what they call a fragile recovery. Wala pa tayo sa pre-pandemic levels, even though the traffic in EDSA says otherwise. Bottom line is, if the BSP, the Banco Central, hikes aggressively, there's every chance it could really hurt consumer spending, which is the driver of our economy. So beyond that, there's not much more they can do, but hope inflation in the U.S. calms down. And again, I think Governor Medalla is leaning towards letting the peso find its floor at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Reg. One News business editor, Regina Lay. After the break, environmental advocates are renewing calls against the construction of the Kaliwa Dam as more Filipinos acknowledge the significance of the Sierra Madre mountain range against typhoons like Carding. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
So much for sitting down with us.
The purpose really that I have brought to this visit here in New York, in the peripheries of the UN General Assembly, has been to try to reintroduce the Philippines to our American friends, both in the private sector and in the public sector. We do not want to return to whatever it is we were doing pre-pandemic. We want to be able to be involved and be vital part of the new global economy.
And he is in possession. Yan ang problema.
I want to talk for a moment about the war on drugs in the Philippines. The methods used in it during Mr. Duterte's administration were controversial, to say the least, internally and externally. And I'm interested in, can you give a sense of what your approach to that is and how, if it differs from Mr. Duterte's?
Well, it does, in the sense that we have tried to learn from the lessons that we saw in the experience of President Duterte in his war on drugs. And I think one of the main lessons is that his emphasis was on enforcement. And in our analysis, enforcement only gets you so far.
Do you think that President Duterte went too far in the way he approached it?
Well, that was his emphasis. His people went too far sometimes. And we have seen many cases where policemen, other operatives, some just shady characters that we didn't quite know where they came from and who they were working for. But now we've gone after them, and there are many instances where we can show that those who have been found guilty, those who have been convicted, have been detained, are now in jail.
You've stated, this is kind of related, you've stated pretty emphatically that the Philippines should not return to the International Criminal Court.
We have a judiciary. It's not perfect. We have enforcement. The courts are functioning, and I do not understand why we need an outside adjudicator to tell us how to investigate, who to investigate, how to go about it. We have our own system, and it's functioning. So that immediately brings me to questions of jurisdiction and sovereignty.
You're still watching the big story here on One News. The 5 fallen Bulacan rescuers are being hailed as heroes by their provincial government. They lost their lives trying to save residents trapped in floodwaters. Other members of the rescue team remember the 5 victims for their courage and selflessness. Bon Gualvez with this report.
Salukuyan kaming i-dispatch sa San Miguel. Bayan ng San Miguel. Standby na kami doon sa San Miguel, Bulacan. See you.
This was George Agustin going live on Facebook before traveling from the capital in Malolos to San Miguel, Bulacan. This turned out to be his final video, which has now gone viral on social media. In the video, he was seen with fellow provincial rescuers Gerson Resurreccion, Troy Justin Agustin, Narciso Calayag Jr., and Marby Bartolome. Before this, the group even snapped some photos during their operational briefing ahead of their deployment.
Rescue yan ah. Rescue yan, di ba?
At around 3:30 a.m. on Monday, residents noticed the rescuers' boat stuck in the bypass road that's under construction. They tried to lift it up, but the high pressure from the flood waters made it extremely difficult.
Hihigupin yan ha.
When help came, he was already dead on the spot. They found the other 4 rescuers in different spots just right around the area where the boat got lodged. One of them is Narciso Calayag Jr., also called Ona by his colleagues. His youngest of 4 kids and hails from a family of uniformed personnel, among them cops and firefighters.
Napakahirap po, sir. Dahil kami po ay sinusugal namin yung buhay namin talaga para mag-rescue ng ibang tao. Pero sa pagkakataon po na to, yung sarili ko pong kapatid ay hindi na-rescue.
Ona was with the provincial rescue team for 2 years as a volunteer, and his dream was to make it a permanent career. The victims' colleagues are also at a loss for words.
Napakahirap nga rin ng buhatin mismo, kapwa pamilya mo, ka-rescuer mo sa loob ng opisina, ikaw mismo magre-rescue, napakahirap po talaga.
Mababait yung mga limanto, magsisipag sila.
The Bulacan Disaster Office noticed that the province's rescuers undergo the most rigid of trainings, as many Bulacan towns are known catch basins. But they also admit the job has critical risks. The Philippine flag in the capital are currently in half-mast over the rescuers' deaths. The provincial government promised financial help for the victims' families, as well as funeral and burial assistance. On Friday, the 5 will receive posthumous honors for their heroism.
On time of duty, sila ay dinuturing natin na mga bayaning Bulakenyo sa panahon ng mga kalamidad na tumutulong.
Meanwhile, this morning, another man was found dead in a rice farm in Barangay Cambio, also in the town of San Miguel. He was Daniel Sarmiento, 62 years old. Because of the inundation brought by Carding, Bulacan Governor Daniel Fernando ordered to put to stop all quarrying operations in the province. He insists it's now needed to address the situation in the mountains, which resulted in drastic flooding in the province.
Napakarami kasi yung mga nag-iillegal at yung iba kasi walang patumangga na nilalapastangan yung ating kalikasan.
For News 5, Mon Gualvez, we are One News.
Environmental advocates have renewed calls against the construction of the Kaliwa Dam as more Filipinos recognize the importance of the Sierra Madre as a natural barrier against typhoons like Carding. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives us a front seat to the story.
Though Super Typhoon Carding pummeled several areas in Luzon, it also left a reminder of nature's important role in protecting the country from calamities. Sierra Madre, the country's longest mountain range, trends on Twitter as netizens show gratitude to this natural guardian for providing protection against what could have been a far worse catastrophe. Ana Reyes, a volunteer in the Masungi Deer Reserve in Rizal, said because of the mountain range, their community faced a relatively weaker brunt of carding.
Historically, millions of people living in the cities are shielded from the very worst effects of typhoons na nanggagaling sa Pacific Ocean.
Spanning more than 500 kilometers across central and northern Luzon, the tall mountains of Sierra Madre serve as a natural barrier against typhoons, severely weakening them before landfall. This protection is enjoyed by populous regions like Metro Manila and Quezon Province. But while Sierra Madre has unfailingly protected Filipinos, many ask the question, have we done enough to protect it? A study conducted by the University of the Philippines and NASA looked at images of Sierra Madre from space and noticed a significant decrease in its forest area in recent years. In 2018, the loss to forest area was 3,900. The study found that the forests of Sierra Madre continuously shrink due to deforestation.
Imagine if wala yung Sierra Madre, when carding hit, we would just bear the full force of the typhoon. And needless to say, hindi lang flooding and landslide yung may experience natin. We will lose more lives and homes.
With fewer and fewer trees, Reyes agrees that the capacity of Sierra Madre as a natural barrier is weakening. And with this, the threats of landslides and flooding grows. She emphasized that the main threats are those that cause deforestation, such as illegal logging, mining, forest fires, and construction of residential and commercial spaces and dams. Advocates are now taking the opportunity to urge other Filipinos to sign their petition to call off the construction of the Kaliwa Dam in Quezon Province, which is also heavily opposed by indigenous communities in the area. Rizal Congressman Juan Fidel Felipe Nograles on Monday also renewed his push for the immediate passage of House Bill number 1972, which would create a Sierra Madre Development Authority, which would help preserve our natural guardian in the face of a worsening climate change. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro, we are One News.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analysis. I'm Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via Signal Play. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I am Sean Yao. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.